Okay, hello everyone. Can everybody see and hear okay? Hi, Donna. Okay, let's see. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Everybody can see the board over here. I think I'm going to increase the light a bit because my board's looking a little dark on camera. It's a little early, so we have some time here. Oh, that might be better. Okay. I'm just getting set up. So we're still a little early. Let me know you're here by dropping a little note in the chat. And let me know if you're working on the owl with me or you are working on camp projects or any kind of projects, really. So, like I said on notes today, I didn't hear from anybody really. One person, Renee, thank you for weighing in. Hi, Todd. Um, said, do the owl. And so I am like, yes, because I'm under deadline for this. I need to get this done as soon as I can because I need to start painting. Um, and painting always takes longer than drawing, except this takes a long time too. So let's see if I can, I don't think I can swing around. So I have my tools off to the right side because I'm right-handed. I have a selection of pencils that I'm working on. So I have two H's, HBs, and four B's today. And so I'm pretty much going to stick within that. What I am noticing, and it's still early days, is that my darks aren't as dark as I eventually want them to be. But until I have gone ahead and put in really a lot more, like I have not even attempted to do the tree because this is my focal point, so I really want to spend a lot of time, a lot of energy on this, and then I will put in the tree. But until I do all of that, I really can't judge how dark I need to go or how light. I'm working on toned paper, so I already kind of put some of my lights in just to gauge what my darks look like. And yeah, that's how I can kind of see the contrast is I want it to have a wider contrast than what this has. And if you're like, what the heck are you talking about? If you look at the notes that I put out last month, where I went in depth into drawing and value, specifically how value affects your drawing, that this is part of that. It'll become clear as I continue working. I'm actually needing to darken up some of this area here. What I'm seeing is just wanna, yeah, right here. So I can kind of make some corrections to the perimeter of my drawing by adding to the background. So I just did that and corrected the shoulder slope. Birds don't really have shoulders, it's the wing coming down like this. So yeah, so let me know how you guys are doing. I do lots of tiny circles and I build up layers of graphite. So I'm using, this is Canson Me Tints, I think it's called. I'm trying to remember what the color is. I have a feeling this is felt gray. This isn't pearl gray because it's still a little too warm. Could be pearl, but I think it's felt gray. It's kind of a warm middle gray. And I like using this when I do the preliminary drawings for my paintings because I get a really good um, I can key the value really nicely so I don't have to work from white paper. It's already kind of a color, and then I can spend a lot of my time working on those middle tones and the dark tones, and then I can just slap on some white pastel and I have the lights. So I just think it's a more, when you work on toned paper and you're drawing, it's just a little bit more efficient. I'm doing a little cross hatching here. A lot of time to get like in here, I'm doing tiny little circles. I'm using a really, really, really light touch. Like I'm not pressing down hard at all, but you can get a lot of graphite if your paper has a good amount of tooth. It's not rough, it's smooth, but um, you know, it's got tooth so it grabs onto the graphite. So I can make something really dark by just doing tiny little circles and no pressure and making sure it's a soft pencil like a 4B. And then if I want to blend it, I can either use an HB or a 2H, depending on how much graphite I want to leave. Since I want this to be a little darker, I'll use an HB to blend, but most of the time I'm using a 2H. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hi, Renee. So yeah, so this is a slow way of drawing. It's not, this is drawing, not sketching. Sketching goes fast, drawing not so much. And this, it all starts from, well, it starts from a tiny little thumbnail that might be literally just this size where I've just kind of put a basic shape in and said, well, that's going to be dark and that's going to be real dark and there'll be a little owl in here. And that's how I kind of work out my composition. Then I sit there and I kind of work out, well, I flesh it out a little bit more, but it's still like real quick. These usually take about 5 minutes. And then I get to work. So there's like an idea stage where you're working out the idea of your drawing. And then you refine that idea a little bit more, which is what I just showed you. And then you really go in and start doing the detail. Now, do I always do something this detailed for painting? It depends. So this painting is going to be really big. Let's see. I have to put my pencils to the side because they are so thinly sharpened that I could snap them. And okay, so it's going to be, so the painting is going to be like 24 by 20. So almost the size of my easel, which I don't think you can see all of my easel. And so this part won't even be in there. This is the proportion. So I do a smaller drawing, like a fraction of it, but I keep the proportions the same. And that way I could mark a center line and transfer it onto the watercolor paper. So, so yes. And then this becomes something that sits off to the side. I'll have this board propped up over there. I'll have the painting up on the easel. I'm working in watercolor, so the painting will be slightly tilted like this. And then I can use this and all my reference photos and some color studies that I will do beforehand to get my mixes right. And I can use that to start painting the owls. So I have to sharpen the pencils a lot. Not so much these harder ones, like this is an HB, but the soft ones, they lose their point really quickly. I'm gonna put this on my lap. They lose their point really quickly, and it's really important that the point stays on. So I'm just trying to darken up along the perimeter here. And then kind of seeing, I'm already kind of imagining. So the light is coming from this direction and pretty much hitting her here. So this is going to have a shadow. Some feathers here will catch the light, maybe a bit here, but all of this is underneath her brow. There might be some lights in here. Obviously, there's some lights in here. And then I have to think, how does the light coming this way affect the hollow of the tree? And she is set a little bit. So obviously, you see the reference photo we have. Let's see, right, I'm guessing right up in here. And obviously she's not in a tree. She is on a handler's arm. So this is a Chewonki owl. Chewonki is an organization that does rehabilitation, and then the birds that they cannot release back into the wild become teaching birds. And so this was part of an owl program about 10 years ago. And I took lots of pictures of her and a barred owl and a screech owl and whatever owls they brought. And so this one's sitting on the handler's arm. So I'm imagining I wanted her in a hollow because this is a great horned owl and they do nest in tree hollows. So I kind of made that up, but now I have to make the lighting look real. So I'm trying to think, if the light is coming this way, everything here is going to be real dark. Behind her will be real dark because we want it to look like the hollow recedes into the tree. This, when it's all said and done, will be a piece of the tree that kind of curls up and over. This part of the tree will curl like this. I haven't even put that in yet. But I have to think of how the light is going to be affected. So there's going to be some bounce light off her head. So she's not all the way into the hollow, but you have to think the hollow kind of comes up like this. So she's kind of sitting like right in here. And so when the light hits her, it's gonna bounce kind of right up in here. And this part, not right under here, that'll be dark, but this will have a slight lightness to it that that the rest of it won't. So I'm just kind of trying to already map that in. Feel free to ask me questions. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Renee. Renee likes the expression that I captured. Yeah, once I put her eye in, it's weird. I don't have a set time during the process where I say, I'm going to put the eyes in. Sometimes the face is there for the longest time with just kind of like an eye blocked in, or sometimes it's just like a line and a line. Sometimes I don't have the beak in right away, but for some reason early on, this one, I felt the need to put the eye in, and then once her eye was in, all of a sudden she had this sweet little expression on her face. She was a sweet owl. I have another picture of her. She was sweet until she got sick and tired of me photographing her. And when I photograph birds in these situations, my camera, it's a Nikon, it's a DSLR. Um, it's pretty good. It's not like the brand new icon. It's I wouldn't say it's old. Nikons can go forever, but this one, how old is this one? I think this one's like 12 years old. I guess when I had it though, it wasn't that old. But anyways, it's not a very loud Nikon, but it is a DSLR with a mirror in it. So you do hear the clap of the mirror. So if you know anything about cameras, most SLRs back in the olden days when I was a girl, um, they had the mirror in them. And then that mirror is what enabled you, when you look through the eyepiece, to see everything upright. Otherwise, you'd see it upside down. But that mirror has to move out of the way to expose the film. And with DSLRs, it's the same exact thing. That mirror has to flip up so that the sensor can receive the light and record the image, and then it flips back down. So it does make kind of like a little noise, but it's not very loud. So she was pretty tolerant to that for most of the time, but she was so beautiful, and I wanted to take so many pictures of her, and I had pictures of her like close up. I had pictures of her claws, her wings, and she was pretty patient until she wasn't. And so I have another picture of her where she looks like, if I wasn't trussed to this arm, you would be toast, lady. So so I actually will be using that for something else. Poor bird. But yeah, she was a sweet bird. And she didn't have I don't know why she was not released back. There was a reason. They always have a reason. There was a screech owl who was missing its eye, so it can't go back. There's a barred owl who was missing her wing, so she can't go back. But I'm trying to remember. The great horned owl had both her wings and her eyes. I'm not sure. There was a reason why she couldn't be released. But yeah. Hello to the new people who have joined. So here we go. This is I'm even working faster than I normally would. This is slow going as I build up layers. So the trick with graphite, no, if I did this right, oh yeah, good. So the trick with graphite is you want to get it real dark, and you do that by layering darker pencil over. So you start with a base. I usually start with a base of like a 2H, and then I will go to an HB, and then I will darken with a 4B or a 6B, and then I will blend with either one of these depending on whether I want to add a veil of graphite. I'll use the HB. If I really want it to appear like nothing is darkening, but it is kind of coming together, then I'll use the 2H. And so you build it up, because if you don't and you go too fast, especially when you're using really soft pencils, all of a sudden the graphite will start to burnish, meaning it'll start to polish itself. And then you get the graphite that's reflective. Have any of you ever had that experience where you're working, 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 and all of a sudden your darkest parts are just sliding around, and the graphite is getting shiny? That's an issue with graphite, but easily solved by using a paper that's a good drawing paper, basically, and layering very slowly, and then you don't get the burnishing. So I'm able to darken, and the tiny little circles helps you darken because it gets everything into the tooth of the paper. So I don't really use anything to blend. I do sometimes hit like an edge with a brush, but that's usually like at the very end. I might use a stump or a brush to soften an edge where two pieces meet. But I don't really blend except with another pencil. I will use a pencil to blend. I just like the way that looks better. I like the texture of the paper. I don't use a rough paper, but it's got tooth, a little bit of a tooth. Ah, so Renee, you've experienced that too. Isn't it frustrating? Oh my gosh. And there's no pulling back from it. Once that happens, I mean, you could try to lift it with a kneaded eraser, but pretty much that's because the tooth of the paper is full and the graphite is just slipping around on itself. And there's really nowhere to go after that. And nothing sticks to it. So it's not even like you can make it darker because nothing sticks to it. So I'm just kind of judging. And because I do want this a little dark, I'm going to just blend it out with the HB. And it's okay if I go a little bit over the feathers. Sorry, I've been also working on a fox and a couple other animals as I prepare for the classes in September. Okay. Yeah, and I'm already kind of seeing how that would work. I have to sharpen my pencil. See how the um the soft pencils get dull pretty easy. These not so much. I can go for days without sharpening an HB or a 2H. And so off to the side, I have a music stand that I've repurposed now for the studio. And it allows me to clip a really big sheet of 220 grit sandpaper onto it. I have all my pencils. I have a magnet with a little basket thingy stuck to it where I can put my kneaded eraser, all my tools. Okay. Yep. So I'm gonna do right around here too. Just get this dark. This is also a way for me to put some texture right at the edge. So like the ear right here. Actually, I better pay attention. Yeah. So right up in here, we've got that ear on the far side. And I don't want to define this too much. I lost, again, a lost edge. I don't usually attend to my edges. I start to look for lost and found edges towards the end when I'm finishing, but sometimes they appear as you're developing and there's a nice little lost edge. By lost edge, it just means that the contrast between this swath of graphite is not too far of a jump from the contrast that's here. There's not a lot of contrast. And that helps with the realism of your piece because it helps turn your subject in space. When you have a hard edge, like this would be considered a hard edge, or here, that contrast kind of pushes what's in front forward. So in the end, I will probably soften this edge too, but I don't want to do it right now. That's more of a finishing thing, but if it happens while you're drawing, it happens while you're drawing. But I can kind of go in and cut into this so I have that little bit of feather texture in there. I'm using lots of tiny circles again to kind of build the graphite up. Now, let's see. I have to check that I don't go out of frame when I do this, but sometimes just to be more comfortable, that's why I like to mount my drawing on a piece of hardboard. But let's see, make sure you guys can still see what I'm doing. So sometimes I flip it around. And that way I can stay comfortable and I don't accidentally put my hand in it. I also have a maul stick that I made out of a dowel and some cork and a piece of chamois cloth so that if I have to angle my hand and I can't move this, I can lean that up against my easel and put my hand on the dowel. Let's see, questions. Under the beak. So Renee asks, under the beak, where there is the white feathers, did you accomplish that by simply not adding graphite to the area, or did you lift? No. So I needed to double check. Here, I'm going to flip it back. So I needed to double check how this was keyed. Somewhere around here, I have my test strip. I always do a value strip. This one has about 7 values. So darkest, the lightest I can get, and then 5 halftones. And because I'm working on tone paper, my lightest has to be white. And so I use a pastel pencil, a white pastel pencil. I like the Carbo Othello because it's not waxy like some pastel pencils can be. It's more like graphite and like charcoal than anything else, but it's not gritty like the white charcoals out there. So I hit this just really soft just to give myself an idea of how dark I can get. So values are always comparative. I could have decided not to use this at all and that this would stand in for the white of my paper. But what that would have done is I'm not going to be able to get the contrast that I want. And so the value scale will be much more compressed. And I want there to be a bigger jump between the darkest I can get and the lightest I can get, which is this and that. And this I didn't even do very harshly yet. I will go over it once I start finishing. I will start to put this in. The other trick is in my little arsenal of drawing is the red oxide pencil. And you don't use this as a color. It is not a color. I go through this in my courses. So some of you who have been in my workshops will have heard this. You use this to warm the graphite. This is pretty cold. But when you add a veil of this on top of it and kind of let it mix together, which is again why I like the Carbo Othellos, because they mix really nice with the graphite. What it does is it creates a warmth, and the warmth brings it a little bit forward. So it's a way for me to adjust the halftones on the darker end. I never use this on the lighter end of the halftones, and never in the light areas because it's not a color. It's just a temperature. So, but we're not there yet. We might get there today, but I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna flip this back around so I can just darken this. But that was a great question. So this is the thing. I don't think we've really worked on tone paper in Cricklewood. It's not, I don't think it's something I introduced. I'm trying to think. if I introduced this during foundation workshop, no. I think we've always worked on like a warm white paper, nothing toned. Um, Working on toned paper can be a lot of fun. My favorite drawing paper for graphite work is the Canson Me Tints because the shades of gray and kind of warm grays and cool grays are vast. And I tend to like to work on warm grays and warm colors, but that's just me. It's just a personal preference. Um, but you can also get some nice darks. This is just kind of a middle tone, but you can get some really, really nice dark, like really dark ones, which I think are a lot of fun to work like in white ink, white pencil. So all that means is that value scale shifts. So I wish I had my value scale near me. I don't, sorry. But on the value scale, the paper is 1 in, two in. I have, yeah, mine's a 7-step scale. So the pure just paper with nothing on it is actually 2 steps in. Lightest, next lightest, and then the paper. And then I go like a light dark, a darker light dark, a darker light, and so on until I get to the darkest. And I'm not even at the darkest here yet. So hope that answered your question. But tone papers is just, it's so much fun to work on. And, like I said, I like to work on warm paper, but there's a reason people like cooler paper. It all depends on what they're working in. Um, it's been a while since I used any other brand of pencil than Tombow. And so some graphite might not be as cold leaning as a Tombow. And maybe that's why somebody would want to work on a cooler paper. But because I don't blend with a stump or cloth or my finger, you can still see bits of the paper come through. I like that texture. I don't really want to get rid of it. I will take it down a notch though by blending it out with another pencil, with a harder pencil. Okay, so I'm trying to think of the shape of the dark here. Oops. I'm going to move this up because now I've got, I just wanted to be a little precise with that. Okay, so I'm trying to think of the shape of the dark. Yeah, so it's kind of has to go this way. Just kind of giving myself a little perimeter here. So have you guys been working out in the field for camp? I've been juggling camp with getting ready for these exhibitions. And this is going to be a new piece. And then I've got some submissions that I have to get in. And I have to be careful because you can't submit some of these places that I submit to, they specifically say that if you have to withdraw the piece, you can't replace it with something else. And that means that I can't like submit give the gallery that asked for something this and then commit this to one of the competitions, because if it sells in the gallery, I'd have to withdraw it and then I'd get in trouble. So I ended up having to make some unscheduled work that I wasn't expecting to make until later this year, but that's okay. Right. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it's starting to kind of recede back. Like there's just a really subtle shift. But I'm having so much fun with these owls. So I'm doing a whole series of owls. And these are the Chewonki owls that I've had on my camera roll forever. And I knew I was going to do something with them. And I just didn't really have an idea of what yet. And so obviously it's been like quite some time. All right, I have to sharpen my dark pencil again. Actually, yeah. Okay, I'm catching up. So Renee says she's been out in the field when the weather cooperates. Yes, yes. Field notes and pictures from other field trips or field work is that's what's been getting me through as well. Yes, the weather has been very spotty. I make plans, but I always have like a backup, some loose uh, plans because we have had some dicey weather, like nor'easter like weather. Storms that we were expecting would hit south of us in Massachusetts, and then all of a sudden they changed course and decided to come up the Gulf of Maine. So, you know, what can you do? So, this is a lost edge that I don't want to mess with too much, but I do need to get it darker right in this area to kind of give that idea of it kind of like spiraling. I'm imagining that the hollow kind of has this effect. So I'm kind of thinking of the spiral here. But I want to be careful not to lose this soft edge. And this edge eventually also will become lost. So maybe I shouldn't be too concerned. But if I lose, this one's already almost, the value is not that great of a jump. So I'm also trying not to lose my drawing while I put all this in. And again, this is just an opportunity to create some texture on the perimeter of the owl, of any bird really. You can always kind of cut into that perimeter to give either feather texture or fur texture, kind of break up that line. I hope this isn't like watching paint dry. I apologize if it is. Twist my pencil every so often so as it gets flatter on one side, I keep the point as long as possible. And again, tiny little circles with a very light touch, and it really does lay in a lot of graphite without getting that shine. So going back to toned paper again, again, this type of paper has a lot of colors, blues and reds and yellows and all sorts of colors, brights and earthy and whatever. Um, but it's neat because if you are just going to work in graphite and say you're doing like a rosy finch, you could choose like a rosy paper because as you can see, you still see some of the graphite even in the darker, some of the paper come through even in the darker, and it will give your graphite a tint, you know? So you can really have fun with toned papers and graphite. Okay, because I need to be more comfortable, I am going to flip it upside down. So this happens a lot. I flip it around and around and around. So I've been watching the hawks at Cornell. They fledged a couple months ago, but they've been hanging around as Arthur and Big Red teach them how to hunt and fend for themselves. I will say though, those two at the very beginning, they liked having their food served. And so they were not, I mean, I've been watching the hawks for years now, almost a decade. And they usually, you know, once they fledge, it's about 4 months, 5 months that they're then trained how to manage in the wild by their parents. But usually the young ones, they're just so in love with being able to fly. They're curious about squirrels and their food. And but these two, they spent like the first 3 weeks screaming for food. Like they would hang out on the buildings and then just be squawking and squawking and squawking until a prey drop. But now they are starting to do their own thing. Their mom and dad are still around. They're still together, the siblings, which is really interesting. But they are starting to get their own prey, which is good. And luckily, there are birders on the ground because you can't see them from Cornell's cameras anymore. They don't go up to the nest. But there are some fabulous birders on the ground who put it all out on YouTube. I love the live cams. And Renee, were you the one who told me about explore.org, or was that Leslie? I know one of you told me about explore.org, and I am addicted to that. It's not just birds, it's everything. It's sea creatures. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, how do we make next year the sea our theme? Since I don't know about you, but I will not be diving beneath the ocean. So there won't be any like first hand accounts there, but it's so awesome. Yes, okay, it was you. Yes, the bears. Yes. Bears are fascinating. Yeah, they're gonna start what's it called? Is it is it called Fat Bear Week or isn't that coming up when they're gonna start eating and um we're all gonna watch them eat and see how big they get before they hibernate. I don't really participate in that too much, but it is fascinating. I'm fascinated by bears. Oh, this is I am like bursting with excitement. I have figured out our project for Jingle and Mingle Jamboree. You guys are gonna love it. I'm not gonna tell you what it is yet. Um, I think I'm gonna do a prototype because I think you guys need to see it. But it's gonna be a lot of fun. You guys are gonna love it. I'm really excited. I mean, like, I want to tell you about it, but I'm not going to. Not yet. It's still early days. It's not even the end of August yet. I'll let you know in late September. But it's real good. Trust me. Trust me on it. It's real good. Okay, I'm going to flip this around. Actually, I don't have to flip it around. So I have a mirror and I will use it to, yeah, I think I need to make that a little bit more, that curve a little bit less obvious. Um, I use the mirror to like flip around what I'm working on, get a different perspective. But in this case, when I'm working upside down and I need to see if I need to still put more something in or soften something, I can flip it back right side up just using the mirror. The mirror is an indispensable tool. Okay, I am liking the way this is. Okay, let's flip this around. Yeah, the Cornell Osprey. So Renee says she's enjoyed the Cornell Osprey cam. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yes, Iris's chick fledged. Yes. I wasn't going to mention Jackie because it's really sad. Yes, Jackie died. Um, so in the San Bernardino Mountains is a little place called Big Bear Lake, and there were two bald eagles there, Jackie and Shadow, couple. And they've been raising their young there for a little while. And before Shadow came on the scene, Jackie had another mate. So she's been there a while and has raised several chicks. But she died. What was it? Yesterday or day before yesterday? But I was reading about this and I've been following it. It sounds like she's been ill for a while. And I have a feeling that the two young eagles that attacked her on the ground knew, sensed that she was weak. Because what she died of is something that would have had to have been stewing in her for a while. Anemia and kidney failure. That doesn't just happen because you're attacked by two, utes in the wild who are after your fish. But that got me thinking because I estimate big red's at least 20 years old, if not older. Um, and I noticed this year she and Arthur were fending off more challenges to their nesting site than I seem to remember in previous years. I could be wrong. And I wondered if it had to do with the age. Because, I mean, isn't that in A Pride of Lions, as the lions age, um, younger male lions will challenge the older male lions? And I mean, would that really be different in the bird world? Somebody more knowledgeable than me, please weigh in, because this is an interesting topic. I wonder. This needs to be a little darker. Now, do you see how the tooth of the paper created like a little dot where the graphite kind of pooled? There's one right there too. This is why I love the kneaded eraser for so many reasons. But one of the reasons is I can go in and pick out some of these dots. Normally, they don't bother me too much. If you go through atelier training, when you're learning how to shade, yeah, you better not have any dots. You have to pull those out. And then what you do is you take your softest pencil, you just blend it out. Same with here. Just blend it out. I'm sorry, not your softest pencil, your hardest pencil. And it just kind of takes the little dots. See, there's one right there too. Before I break the points. Okay, I really do need my mall stick for this, but it's across the room. So there's no graphite in here. So I'm going to stick my finger here. I'm just going to lift that little dot. There we go. And then take my 2H, kind of buff it out. There we go. Let's see. No, but so Renee says that the fact that she laid 2 egg clutches this year pretty close together probably didn't help. I I'm not an expert either. I'm an amateur. I'm just a bird artist. I don't know crap about birds. No, I'm just kidding. I know what I have observed, and I am taking the Cornell Lab of Ornithology's ornithology course, so I am learning something there. But that's logical, I think. Again, if you're an expert, weigh in on this because I too am an amateur. But I can't imagine that that was easy on her body to begin with. And I don't know what the longevity of uh, female eagles is. I mean, I forgot how they said how old she was. She wasn't like young. Um, yeah, so I don't know. Let's see, that's actually, I do want to kind of blend everything. This is my 2H, so it's not really going to darken anything up, but it is going to kind of blend everything I just did, which is good. Okay. Let me just leave that for a minute. All right, I think I'm gonna start working on the face again. So I usually will zoom in on the face because I want to kind of work on the eye. And I'm going to stick with my HB for this one. So I spend most of my time using an HB. I will use my 2H to block everything in. I will spend most of the middle stages using an HB, sometimes picking up my softest pencil as I need it. Like I said, I needed to establish for dark. And I don't go as dark as I possibly could go, only because right now this looks pretty dark. Once I start developing this more, this is not going to look so dark. And so if I go straight away to the darkest level I can get, and I know what that is because I have a a value strip, I leave myself no room to make adjustments. And in the final stages of your drawing, you want to be able to kind of tweak the values. So in case if you need an area to have a bigger jump in value, if you've already made this as dark as you can go, that means you have to pull graphite off. And while this is a really great tool, and I do use it to pull graphite up, it's not something that I'd want to do a lot of. So, if you have to use it for correction more than for brightening, then it it starts to make a sloppy drawing. That's just my opinion and my experience. so so I will spend a lot of time using the HB. So let's get into this area. I'm looking, so I'm squinting my eyes to kind of judge the value. I'm actually gonna, let's see. Yeah, so right around here. Okay, so right here, there's like a light and a light. So we've got a little bit of a darkness right here. And I'm staying in the direction of the feathers. And so when you're working in black and white, essentially, and you're trying to translate those colors into a grayscale. And I don't do that mechanically. So back when I was learning, I did actually change my reference photos to be grayscale, just so that I could learn to see the darks and the lights. But what happens when you do that, and I don't actually teach that anymore. Um, I've never taught it actually. I quit doing that pretty early on because it starts to be a crutch. I think it's good for demo purposes so people kind of know what they're looking at, and it was good for me to see so I knew what I was looking at. But when you start to draw from grayscale, um, you're missing an opportunity to teach yourself in your between your eye and your brain when you look at something to figure out the values. And the way you figure that out is you squint your eyes until everything's kind of blurry on your reference, whether it's from life or, um, you know, on a photo. And you can kind of start to see what parts are darker and what parts are lighter and not really worry about the color. And then because you have a value strip, you're also just getting the angles right. So you're also using your value strip to help you determine this little piece of like auburn ring. Where does that sit in my value strip? Where does it sit between my darkest dark and my lightest light? And so that's why I start with the HB. It's just soft enough, actually. It's just soft enough to create some shading, but not dark enough to go too dark right away. Does that make sense? And I don't use the tip, I use the side of the tip. I'm just kind of laying in to see if I've got the shape right. And I can see on this side, I do not have the shape right here on the outer edge. So I'm going to pull that back. a little. Yeah. And because I already laid something down, anytime I put something over it, it's going to just darken. Okay. And so this is a lighter area. I'm always kind of moving in the direction of the feathers too. Because with pencil, I'm not going to put in every individual feather. I'm just going to give the indication of the feather. So I still want to move in the direction of the feathers. Okay. Then so this one comes up here. Okay. So right here, this little upper bit of lid is catching some light. I'm going to have to get my maul stick. Hang on. Okay. So this is a maul stick, one of the most helpful things ever. So I can stick it down. I can make this a little tool. And I kind of make it give me the shape I need it to give. Yeah. Okay, I think that's all right. Oh, here's where I put it. I'm like wondering, where did I put my pencil? I'm going to go for 15 minutes more. I'm on the roll. Thank you, Catalina. Catalina. Oh, gosh. That's a beautiful name. Okay. So I need to make it just a little darker right in here. And I'm connecting the shadows. Let's see. And it's Not that dark right here. Or not that light right here. Go. Oh, cool. Thank you. Thank you, Kat. Oh, I have a process. Stick with me, Kat. We'll get you drawing owls. We'll start small. Okay. I don't know if you saw what I did here, but I think when I was drawing it, I started to give her a human eye because we have an upper eyelid that splits like that, and the owl's doesn't quite so much. And I think I anthropomorphized her. So here's where I am going to make a correction using my kneaded eraser. So kneaded eraser is definitely a drawing tool as well as a correction tool. I'm going to need my malt stick again. There we go. And by working in layers like this, I can pull the top layer off of the graphite. So there's still, it didn't go all the way down to the paper. It just removed some of that extra. Okay. So I'm looking at that kind of shading, and then you can see the break in the eye feathers right here. They just kind of come down right in here. So I'm using the side point. Yeah. Kind of just need to see how far it comes down pretty far. Just like that. Okay. How to carve the pencil. Oh, oh, I see what you're saying. Um, yeah, so I take my utility knife and I literally move my pencil against it. That's the trick. Never move your knife against your pencil. You will hurt yourself and you end up hacking your pencil off. You brace your thumb and you move, and I'm turning my pencil when I do this against the utility knife. And then I have sandpaper and I twist and sand it like this against this. So if this were my sandpaper, I twist and sand it this way. I never sand like this because you end up with a flat edge. But if you twist it, and the twisting is really important when you are whittling away, and you don't have to make them as long as I do. When I'm at my desk drawing, I use a much shorter, I still sharpen this way, but I use a shorter lead. But when I'm at my easel, I use a longer lead because I can move my arm better. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. And I usually hold my pencil way far back because it's lighter touch, and again, I can use my whole arm. But when I need to be much more detailed, like I'm about to do, I will move up the pencil. Sometimes I do hold a pencil like this, very rarely though, up like this. So most of the time I'm like this, but when I'm about to get detailed like I am now here, I will hold it closer and take my maul stick because I just want to deepen some of the shadows right in here. So I'm thinking the light is coming here. And this part is under her brow. This part, it's under her brow. And this part of her is curving away from the light. So light only comes in straight rays, which means the light is not really hitting this directly. It is, however, hitting bits of this directly as we get down in here, because up in here, it's going to have a bit of light in it. Because these feathers come this way, they kind of come out. So this light, not hitting this directly, but it is going to touch kind of upon here and bring it out. So that means the shadows get deeper right there. Now, that might be a little too stark, and that's okay because as I develop everything else, this will get lighter and lighter by comparison because everything is comparison. Let's see. Yeah. So this stays pretty soft. So I'm just kind of giving myself an indication of where there's a feather break. And then it comes up here. And then be real light because I can always go over it again. So just like that. And I'm going to take my 2H and just kind of bump up all of these shadows. Again, I'm squinting my eye to see what the shadow shape is all here. Okay, so there's coming in from here. So I'm using my 2H, which does a real light veil of graphite, color. I'm just following it all the way through. And let's see. Okay. I'm staying away from where I have the lightest lights for now. Okay. Oh, you're welcome. Let's see. I'm going to use my mirror again to kind of flip it around to the back, or backwards to flip it. So I wonder if I can make you guys see what I see. Okay, so this is the mirror. And I usually put it on the, yeah, there we go. So pretend I'm sticking it on the bridge of your nose. Wait, I better. So does that do it? Yep. Here, it does it better. Okay. And then I just kind of move it. And it just gives me a new perspective. I see more of it when I'm doing it because my eye is like coming right into it. I also can flip it upside down. Let's see if I can make you guys see that. Yeah. Again, I can see more of it when I do it on my own head, but you kind of get the idea of what happens. So it's a 4-inch mirror. I got it off of Amazon. It was just a compact with one side a regular mirror and one side a magnifying mirror, which is of no use to me. So I broke the compact in half and I just put tape over the back of it because I'm going to use it so much that I didn't want it to get all, you know, It just gives it extra strength. So I just snapped that sucker in half and took the side I wanted. But I always recommend, if you're going to draw like this, if you're going to draw anything, get yourself a mirror that you can hold up. So I hold it up to the bridge of my nose vertically, or I hold it up kind of to where my eyebrows are, like this, if I want to flip it upside down. Can I do a shameless plug for my courses? I wasn't going to do this because you guys already know about it, but in September, I start the drawing courses, and this is on the required list, is a mirror. Just for this purpose. But it helps give you a new perspective. All right, let's see what else I want to do. I guess we're going to go a half hour longer. All right, I'm just trying to see what I want to deepen. And actually, so I have my 2H and my HB because I do want to darken this, because if I'm looking this and this and this and this and parts of this will all have to be as dark as this, which means this is going to have to be much darker, which is fine. That's what I'm expecting. Actually, I don't know how this little spot got right there. Let's get rid of that little spot. But I do need to make this, which is as dark as this, make this as dark as this and this. So I think I will work on that, but I'm not going for my darkest pencil. I'm going for that HB again. So let's start in here. Just fill in. Actually, I'm gonna move it again this way. Can we all still see this? Ah, yeah, the phone works too. I'm just, I'm right now hating my phone. My phone and we can't exactly break up, but we need to spend as much time apart as possible. I used to take photographs of my on my thing to on my phone too, and then flip them around. But yeah, my phone and I we need some time apart. All right. So I am just kind of looking. I'm connecting the shadow here. It's a little bit wider. Yeah. So the darkest part is right in here. And actually, this is where I could have used my 2B. Where's my 2B pencil? No, I'm just going to stick with the 3. Let me just stick with the 3 pencils. Not worry about it. I'm just going to use my HB light touch and really try to deepen this. Little circles help a lot. And then I just want to blend with my 2H. So while my reference, this whole feather is really, really dark, I'm holding off on making everything dark for a couple reasons. One reason is because until I darken around this, I don't want to darken this because I'll lose the drawing. The other reason is I may decide that I don't want it to be, because remember, we're just doing values, not colors. I just need it to read dark. I don't need it to be dark, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to hold off on this edge, making it too dark. And see how I have a little catch of graphite right there? So I kind of make this the shape of that, and I just pick it up. There we go. I hope you guys are as relaxed watching this as I am doing it. I find this way of drawing very relaxing. Okay, so Kat wants to know a little bit more about the courses. Okay, so I have two drawing courses, intro to drawing courses. And they are specifically teaching this way of drawing. So you get to work with these big dagger pencils. And I have one for birds. It's very specific to birds. And one for animals, wildlife. Mostly it'll be mammals, but we'll try to work some other stuff in there. Um, and I take you, it's for people who have never drawn before. It's for people who've never drawn like this before. And I take you through the whole, okay, I take you through the whole process of blocking in, preparing your materials, figuring out your composition, blocking in, developing your values. It's just soup to nuts. So I have a lot of information on my website, which is susannafisher.com. The course is on, there's more information about the course, all courses, at courses.susannafisher.com. And there are links on Cricklewood, and I will put a link in the replay post here that I will send out this afternoon. But yeah, it is a beginning drawing course, but it's a beginning classical drawing course. So we do thumbnails, we do all of that because we are trying to create a finished classical drawing of either a bird or an animal of some sort. But I find this way of drawing very relaxing. It's nice and slow and methodical. Okay, I am going to go in with the 4B really carefully. We start with 3 pencils. I will tell you, given that I have an expanded value scale, I wish I had my 2B in my box here, but I don't. So I'm just doing real light with my 4B. And if you're in the bird class, I take you through bird anatomy and feather groups because, well, they're just fun to know. It's also helpful when you're drawing. So, for example, I know that there's a top of the ear right here that folds over. And so that's how and because the light isn't catching this side of the ear, I know that I need to darken up what is the inner part of the ear, which is right up in here. So I can take my darker pencil and really lightly kind of carve into the feathers here until it starts to look like the inner ear. And because photographs are going to lie to you all the time. Because the camera's sensor can only get so much information. I just know that there is an ear here and a dark feather. Okay, I think that's good. I'm going to take my 2H and kind of blend this in a little. Not too much. Back to my HB. But yeah, feel free to DM me if you want more information or go to the website if you have any questions. I taught them last winter and they just are a lot of fun. Okay, so I want a little bit more texture in here. And now that I'm starting to develop this a little bit more, let me make this a little darker right in here. I can cut into this a little bit more so it's a little more natural. I'm so glad I started working on these owls. I cannot wait to paint this. I am just like totally in love with this owl. I just have good memories from meeting her, and so I just have to be careful when I cut in that I did not lose the drawing. No, I'm good. I just want to darken this a little bit. Now I'll show you what'll happen when I add a touch of the darker graphite. I need to get the pencil point real sharp. And this pencil, after this session, is going to become my desk pencil because I can't whittle away at it anymore without it being like nothing. And I do have these extenders that I do use on occasion, but I do need some desk pencils, so I'll let this become a desk pencil. Normally, I wouldn't do this until towards the very, very end, as I am starting to finish up. But you can see just by adding, going over what I've already established with that HB, going over with my, and I'm just following what I just did with the HB. I'm not breaking any new ground here. That it already starts to kind of give the illusion that there is a group of feathers overlaying another group of feathers. And the reason why I normally wouldn't do this right at this stage is, again, because I haven't really established my darkest darks. I just wanted you to see the power of graphite. So you can see she's kind of starting to come out. And this is one of the most I love this stage of drawing. I love this stage of painting too. It's like, because you didn't see it at the very beginning. She was lines, just like lines and angles, and then big blocks of shadow that were really pale because I blocked them in using a 2H. Um, and you think to yourself, oh my God, how am I gonna, when is it going to like become real? And then you end up starting to hone the features, the beak falls into place, all of a sudden the eyes fall into place. I labored a good afternoon over the eyes because you have to get them, you have to get the corners correct at the right angle. You have to get an eye that you don't see in the right place. And but then once that starts to happen, you're in this middle phase where you can kind of see where it's going. So I've blocked in these feathers. So this is a mixture of some of the shadows from one group. So this group of feathers is casting a shadow here and here and here. So this right here is a cast shadow, not a feather marking. But then what I've got down here are feather markings where they are darker feathers. And this is cast shadow, marking and cast shadow. And so what I've done is I just went through and kind of marked those dark areas. And then I will go in and start to develop them. So I kind of block them in the later beginning stages after I'm pretty sure I've got the proportions exactly where they need to be. Her eyes have been blocked in. They weren't developed this much at that point, but they're in. The beak is where it's supposed to be. The ears are lined up. Her face is lined up. And then, and that's her center line, like right there. This all is, you know, I've explained this before in other sessions. And then I can go through and start to develop. So like this was all done with a HB and a 2H. So since these are cast shadows, I want to deepen right under here and then have this be a gradient as we get down to here. So then it becomes like a little hollow. And then take my take my 2H and blend it out. See, and at this point, now I'm using value to create form by looking for cast shadows, form shadows. This whole side of her is going to even get darker, darker, darker. There will be more darkness here because remember, she's round. We'll have values here, separate from her markings that help place her in space as a three-dimensional owl. So I hope that's helpful. I hope this wasn't too boring. I hope this wasn't like watching paint dry. And hopefully you got something from it that you can take into your own drawing practice, because this is a formal drawing, but this is working when you're sketching, it's working when you're nature journaling. It's how you take the visual information and draw what you see using a visual language of graphite that's all based on value. Yeah. Let me see if there if there are any questions. Let's see. Kat asks if the white highlights are pens. No, it's a Carbo Othello white pastel pencil. It's a 100. It's the titanium white. Yes. This is a so she asks about the paper texture. Canson me tients. Again, I think it's felt gray. I have to go look at my records. It definitely is not the pearl because I can see another drawing across the the studio that is on pearl paper. This is either pearl gray or it is felt gray. But it's a warm gray, and it's not, how can I explain? It's not rough. Like if you've ever touched cold pressed watercolor paper and you feel how rough that is, that's not this. But there is tooth to the paper, and it's meant to like grab onto dry media like charcoal, graphite, pastel, all that stuff. So it takes a lot of layers. It's a pretty strong paper. Okay, yes, definitely pick up your graphite pencils. They're so much fun. So much fun, Kat. You'll love it. And so responsive. So I'm gonna take a little break. I need some water. And then I gotta start back on this owl because, let's see, we're Wednesday. I need to have this done by tomorrow morning because I have to block in the owl on my watercolor paper beginning tomorrow. And that's usually because I don't project it on to there and I have to size up. So in essence, I'm redrawing the owl, just not as extensively as this on a big sheet of paper. And usually it takes me like a couple days. It takes me 2 sessions, an afternoon session and a morning session, because I have to start painting it by Friday. All right. Thank you guys so much for being willing to watch me do this while I try to get my deadline straight. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I will turn the replay around immediately. So as soon as Substack is done processing it, I will just send it out to you. So if you are on the mailing list, you will get it in your box sometime this afternoon. If you're not on the mailing list, I definitely post on Notes that I have it out. Otherwise, just check the Cricklewood website. And I'll put a link to the courses for those of you who just want to check them out. Otherwise, I am back here next Wednesday for another wonder-filled Wednesday. Hopefully we will be able to go outside for that. And yeah, so have fun working on your camp projects, have fun drawing, have fun doing anything in nature. And I will talk to you all very, very soon. Thank you again so much. Bye.